Hi, I'm Adi and I'm a System Experience Engineer. Today, I'll cover the essentials for building live activities and how to make them shine on every screen. I'll start with an overview of the experience that live activities offer, and I'll go into how your app can create them and keep them up to date. Then, I'll touch on how you can further optimize them for your app. Live activities are a great way for apps to provide timely and glanceable updates for something that's happening right now. Like this one from the MLB app. It keeps track of someone's favorite teams and shows a live activity when they're playing. People stay up to date with the score, the current inning, and key game updates right from the lock screen. And on the home screen, or when they're using apps, they appear right in the dynamic island, so people never miss a thing. Live activities can also expand to show more information from the dynamic island. This occurs when an alerting update happens or when someone long presses on it. The expanded view provides even more space to let people know about essential updates. And in iOS 27, live activities are visible in the dynamic island when in portrait and landscape. They also appear in other places too, like in standby, when iPhone is in landscape and charging. When your app runs a live activity on iPhone, it automatically appears on other Apple devices, including right on the Apple Watch in the Smart Stack, in the macOS menu bar, or right on the CarPlay dashboard. This makes it super easy for people to glance at the key information they need from your app, no matter where they are. To bring live activities to your app, I'll cover how they get created and how your app keeps them up to date. It starts by planning your data model, so that your live activities updates can be fast and efficient. Then, create the basic views in each of its key presentations. Finally, I'll provide updates, either from the app when it's running or through push notifications in the background. I'll start with the data model. To explore how to do this, I'll add a live activity to an app that I'm working on. It lets me order coffee from a local coffee shop. I can pick my favorite drink and customize it just the way I like it. When I'm done, I send my order to the store for pickup. The first step to building a live activity is to come up with a great design. They're meant to provide immediate, glanceable information. You'll want to craft a design that prioritizes the key things people need to know over time. For inspiration, check out the Human Interface Guidelines for help designing your live activity. And check out the session Design Dynamic Live Activities. For this app, I'll use my initial designs for the lock screen to start planning the data model. It will have different presentations for when the order is placed, when it's being worked on, when it's ready for pickup, and a brief opportunity to leave feedback after I'm done. I'll need to consider which parts of the data are static and which parts of the data are dynamic. That's because live activities treat static and dynamic data differently in order to provide efficient updates. Only the dynamic data can be updated during the lifetime of a live activity. Data that never changes will be contained in a struct that conforms to the activity attributes protocol. Values that do change over time are part of a separate content state struct. In the coffee order, there are a few things that are static and won't change. An order always stays with the same coffee shop, so the name of the shop is static. The drink that someone orders also won't change, but the status of the order, as well as the remaining time, are dynamic. The app will update those values over time. To create a data model for this live activity, I'll import ActivityKit and create a drink order attribute struct conforming to activity attributes. Then, I'll add properties for all of the static data: the name of the shop, the drink for the order, and a unique identifier that my server uses to track each order. Then, I'll add a content state struct containing the dynamic data. This includes the order's phase, like whether it's being prepared or ready for pickup, as well as the estimated ready time, and the rating left for the order. And that's it. Now that I have the data model in place, I'll build the views for the live activity. The interface for a live activity is built using WidgetKit. To get started, add a widget extension to your app if you don't already have one. There, you'll provide an activity configuration that describes its views. Each presentation of live activity is a SwiftUI view, which reads the attributes and content state provided to it. If you're new to SwiftUI, check out the video SwiftUI Essentials. For the drink order, I'll start by creating an activity configuration in my widget extension. By specifying the drink order attributes type, these views will be associated with the right live activity. The content closure provides the SwiftUI view that should appear. In this case, I have a view called Activity View. To show the right values, like whether the coffee is being prepared or ready, it uses the context parameter. The context contains the attributes and the most recent content state that should be rendered. Next, I'll provide views for the dynamic island. The first three are compact leading, compact trailing, and minimal views. These views are small and appear when someone isn't actively interacting with it. Carefully consider which information is essential from the larger presentation to appear in these views. For the coffee order, the leading view shows a symbol of the type of drink I ordered, while the trailing view has a label for the order's phase. I'll also provide the minimal view. This view may appear when multiple live activities are running. Minimal views should provide the most essential information that someone will glance at. For this order, it provides a circular gauge showing the time remaining. Finally, I'll build up the expanded view in the dynamic island. This view is much larger and can accommodate more information, similar to the lock screen view. It consists of multiple regions that surround the sensors on iPhone. In each closure, I'll provide a view for each of the regions I need in a dynamic island expanded region block. Now that the data model and views are built, it's time to start the live activity and keep it up to date. Live activities can be started in a few different ways. Using the ActivityKit framework, you can start one directly anytime your app is running in the foreground. Or a live activity can be scheduled to start in advance at a specific time. Alternatively, you can also start it from a push notification. The simplest way is to use ActivityKit. For my app, I'll start by checking if live activities are authorized. Then, I'll create an instance of the drink order attribute struct for the order. I'll fill in the static data, like the coffee shop name and the drink ordered. Then, I'll construct the content state, which contains the initial values for the dynamic data of this live activity. I'll set the first phase of the order, the ordered phase. And most drinks are ready in 15 minutes, so I'll set an initial ready time of 15 minutes from now. The content state of a live activity also has a stale date. A stale date lets you specify when this content should be considered out of date. When the content is stale, your live activity views can indicate that. For now, I won't set a stale date for a coffee order. Then, I'll request the system start a live activity using the attributes and content I've defined. When the live activity is running, it's just as easy to update. Call the update method on the activity with a new content state as well as a new stale date. Live activities can also be updated with push notifications. There are two strategies to choose from. First, you can broadcast updates. This is a great choice when you have hundreds, thousands, or more people running the same live activity at the same time. With this strategy, your server sends updates to everyone using a broadcast channel. Then, you configure the live activity to subscribe to that channel for its updates. The other strategy is to use push notifications. This is great for all other use cases. The server can send push notifications to target updates to specific devices. For this strategy, you'll obtain a push token for the live activity and use that to send each update. To learn more, the documentation has a great guide on how to use ActivityKit push notifications. So far, I've covered just the first steps with live activities. Next, I'll share how to go even further to optimize them. I'll discuss adding more customized presentations and bringing interactivity to the views. I'll start with further refining their presentations. In iOS 27, the dynamic island, compact, and minimal views are visible in both portrait and landscape. In portrait, compact views are flexible in width, but in landscape, they don't have room to grow in width. Your live activity needs to account for when the dynamic island is constrained in width like this. Here's the implementation of the compact trailing view for the coffee order. It's a SwiftUI view that either shows the estimated time for the drink order, if there's one available, or it shows the label for the order's phase, like the string ready. I'll start by adding the environment value is dynamic island limited in width. Then, I'll adjust the view body. When the dynamic island is limited in width, I'll display an alternate trailing view that shows an icon of the order's progress instead. Now, the new trailing view fits nicely into the limited width. Another presentation to consider is standby, which can appear when iPhone is charging in the landscape. In this presentation, the lock screen view is used, scaled up to 200%. The gradient background that works great on lock screen makes the activity feel small and doesn't fill the screen, leaving a lot of blank space. To fix this, I'll adjust how my live activities view displays its background. I'll add the shows widget container background environment value to the view. This value is true on the lock screen, so there I'll apply my gradient background. Next, I'll use the activity background tint on the view to set a recognizable background color otherwise. Now, the live activity presents an edge-to-edge background tint color in Standby. Live activities also appear in the Smart Stack on Apple Watch and in CarPlay. To customize them for these places, just add support for the small device family. Live activities are automatically forwarded from iPhone to CarPlay and use my activity view by default. This view looks great on lock screen, but doesn't fit well in the space. To adapt for this layout, first declare support for the small activity family. This indicates to the system that your views are adapted to the smaller format. Then, add the activity family environment value to the view, and provide a customized view for this presentation when the value of activity family is small. Now, the live activity looks great everywhere. People love being able to access your app's glanceable information while on the go. To learn even more about adapting views for the small activity family, check out the session, Bring Your Live Activity to Apple Watch. Live activities can be a great opportunity for people to take quick, immediate actions. You can provide this by adding interactivity. When an order is complete in the Coffee app, I want to make it easy for people to rate their order. To do this, each button in the live activity is associated with an app intent. When someone taps a button, the system executes the associated intent. In the implementation, the rate drink intent conforms to live activity intent. And it takes two parameters, the ID for the order and a Boolean describing whether the rating was positive or not. The perform method is where the app's logic is implemented. When either button is tapped, this function will run. The app can implement this method to do all of the work involved, like sharing this rating back with the server and updating the database. Finally, I'll update the Ratings button view, which is used in both my Activity view and Dynamic Island expanded region. I'll add 2 buttons for each intent and can create a rate drink intent for each action. Live activities are a great way to keep people updated about things they care about that are happening in real time. Now you're empowered to get started with them in your apps. Some next steps are build live activities with the Activity Kit and Widget Kit frameworks. Use attributes and content state to model your static and dynamic data for efficient updates. Create outstanding presentations on the lock screen, in the dynamic island, and more. Use Activity Kit and push notifications for timely updates to its data. And curate each experience like in landscape, in standby, on Apple Watch, and others. Thanks for watching.